Now, from Atlanta News First, the issues that matter to you. This is On the Record.
On the record this week, Georgia voters are heading back to the polls. Early voting begins tomorrow ahead of 4 special elections. I'm Rick Foldow.
It seems like voters are always going to the polls in Georgia. Thanks for being with us. I'm Doug Reardon. Voters in Metro Atlanta, Augusta, and Northwest Georgia will all decide who they want to represent them in the state capitol as well as in Congress. In the Augusta area, it's a race to fill the empty State House seat in District 130. Lynn Hefner resigned that seat in January. She says damage to her home from Hurricane Helene meant that she had to move out of her district.
And Metro Atlantans will soon choose who they want to replace State Representative Karen Bennett. The Stone Mountain Democrat left the legislature before pleading guilty to federal fraud charges. She's expected to be sentenced in April. Bennett's former seat in House District 94 stretches across Gwinnett and DeKalb counties. And Northwest Georgia voters are deciding who they want to replace Colton Moore in the state Senate. The Republican resigned from his District 53 seat after qualifying for the race to replace Marjorie Taylor Greene in Congress.
Well, nearly 20 people are running in that special election to replace Marjorie Taylor Greene in the U.S. House, including more than a dozen Republican candidates. President Trump is hoping his endorsement helps clear that crowded field in Georgia's 14th congressional district. And the president just endorsed former Lookout Mountain District Attorney Clay Fuller in that race. The Trenton Republican is a military veteran who ran for this seat back in 2020. He finished 4th in that Republican primary. Of course, former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene won that year. He told me his time in the Air Force, as well as his tough on-crime approach as a prosecutor, is what grabbed the president's attention when we sat down on the record. This is a crowded field. The last check is we're sitting here today. There's about 20 candidates just on the GOP side. But you're the candidate that's endorsed by President Trump.
Yeah, well, first off, it was in honor of a lifetime. Not my normal Wednesday evening to get a call from the president. I ignored the call because I didn't recognize the number. Then I had somebody that was in the room in the Oval Office with the president who then immediately called me and said, "Hey, dummy, please pick up the next phone number." And so I picked it up, and it was just like a movie. He just told me that our campaign is going to be a rocket ship now, and he's really proud of me. So it was really, truly the honor of a lifetime, not my normal Wednesday evening to get that call. And I came back in, and my wife and my 2 kids were sitting there, and my wife kind of looked at me like I'd seen a ghost, and she was like, "Who were you on the phone with?" I said, "The President of the United States," and she just burst into tears. And so it was just one of those moments that I was able to share with my family immediately, and it will be something that I'll never forget.
Why do you think it was you that he ended up choosing?
Well, I think it really comes down to the bio. I think you'll see in his endorsements, he appreciates people who have raised their hand to go into the military and defend our country. I think he appreciates someone who has been tough on crime their entire career and has been an America First prosecutor focused on putting the worst criminals away and making sure that they don't ever get out of prison. One of the main reasons that I even got involved in politics was the first inaugural address with the American Carnage speech. I was a prosecutor prosecuting really tough cases and seeing what was happening to our main streets out here in North Georgia. And he was the first politician in my lifetime who was speaking to those problems and to our communities.
What did you make of the messy way that things ended between Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene at the time and President Donald Trump?
To be honest, I wasn't even paying attention to it. I think that's probably true for most people in the district. They care much less about what's happening in DC. They care more about just what's happening here at home. And so that's really been a message that I've carried to the voters as well. No one's really interested in any sort of disagreements in the past. They care about the fights of the future.
And when we talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene, healthcare was really one of the things that kind of put that wedge between her and Donald Trump with these Affordable Care Act subsidies that shut the government down. This is something that we've heard from constituents all over the state of Georgia, is that it is very difficult for them to afford their health care, whether or not they were on those subsidies.
Personal side of it, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer at 31. I was newly married, I had a 2-year-old daughter. I was part of a single-payer system in the military, and I had terrible health care. We need to unite behind a policy that is going to get the federal government out of healthcare. That will immediately drive down costs. We got to allow people to buy health insurance across state lines, these artificial barriers, policy barriers that are making things more expensive.
What would you be able to pull from your time in the courtroom to kind of inform your experience as a legislator?
Yeah, I think you're seeing that right now with a lot of the hearings related to Border Patrol, related to ICE. One of the challenges that I faced over the from 2020 to 2025, when I left the district attorney's office, we were having people die from fentanyl overdoses each and every day. And I quite literally saw over the last year, from January 2025 until now, I saw our fentanyl prices in the community increase, meaning supply was much more difficult to come in. And those policies to secure the border were quite literally saving lives in the Lookout Mountain Judicial Circuit. And so I think it's really important to have a national conversation saying, hey, this is really important for us as a policy to achieve because it's saving Americans' lives.
How far do you want to push the immigration debate here in the 14th district? Would you be okay with ICE coming in and running these Operation Metro surges, in your constituency?
Absolutely. No, I'd welcome enforcing federal law. And these people in sanctuary cities, wherever they are, they're basically neo-Confederates. We settled this debate in the Civil War. If there's federal law, then federal law needs to be enforced. And that's simply what ICE is doing. And so we would certainly welcome them here. They would communicate well with our local law enforcement agencies. And the main thing is, it's amazing to me that it's controversial to get rid of criminal illegals who have been committing crimes in our community.
And you can listen to my full interview with Clay Fuller right now on the Atlanta News First app. And by the way, we've gone on the record with 8 of the candidates fighting to fill the District 14 seat in Congress. You can watch all of those interviews on the Atlanta News First YouTube channel before you head to the polls.
And our panel joins us now. Former Democratic candidate for Georgia State Senate, Deborah Shigley, and Republican political analyst and president of Main Street Network Strategies, Julianne Thompson. Thank you both for coming, going on the record. Great to see you, Julianne. Let me start with you because you were the moderator at a Republican forum last week. Then there was another one a couple of days later. Very interesting to watch these things. And during the forum on Thursday night, one of the Republican candidates dropped out. And then the chair of the Republican Party for District 14 got up and said, hey, wait a minute, what's with all of these signs? Republicans for Sean Harris. He's one of the Democrats running for this race. What's going on?
Well, with regard to your question about the Republicans for Sean Harris, what she was doing was calling out the political skullduggery of those signs. Republican is in a very large font, for is in a tiny font, and then Sean Harris is again in another large font. So it looks like when you look at it from a distance that Sean Harris is a Republican. It looks like it says Republican Sean Harris. So she was calling out the deception of those signs. So that's the reason that she was talking about her disappointment where that was concerned. With regard to the candidate that dropped out, that was Marty Brown. And he has, I believe, endorsed Colton Moore. And my particular forum that I did was last Tuesday. And it went very well. We had a straw poll at our forum. We had a straw poll at the forum on Thursday. On Tuesday, Clay Fuller came in first. And on Thursday, Colton Moore came in first. So this race is wide open. And the base of support really is dependent on which part of the district that you're talking about.
Yeah, and of course, you moderated these. Deborah, you've been a candidate, so you've seen that side of things. With such a crowded field and it's such a crowded stage, how do you stand out among the crowd in events like these? Because we are going to have more of them.
Sure. I mean, as a candidate, you have 2 main responsibilities. That is raising money and talking to voters, and those kind of flip back and forth, right? But in a race like this, that's a jungle, that's wide open, focusing on as hyper-local an issue as you can. I mean, certainly there's the federal, the national climate that's going on, but what is the local issue? Maybe it's agriculture, maybe it's the tariffs. We see Sean Harris talking about the farmers, and that is how he's garnering a lot of support. So the more hyper-local you can go, you will earn support.
And Julianne, are you surprised that there are still this many candidates in it? I am sure that you're sure that the endorsement by President Trump of Clay Fuller was to thin the field a little bit. People really had to make decisions quick to jump into this race, but there's still some danger here for Republicans with this many candidates. Are you surprised there are this many?
I'm not surprised because this was a very, very well publicized candidate with regard to Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was widely known across the entire country, and everything that happened leading up to her resigning her seat and the special election being called would definitely attract a large group of people to want to run for this seat and represent. And Georgia Republicans are very independent minded. and they are going to vote for the candidate that they think best represents them. So it's not a surprise to me that you see a crowded race.
Yeah, and it's a deep red district, so I'm sure
It is.
everyone thinks that they have a good chance. Yeah, all right.
Exactly.
But the concern is that with so many candidates, Deborah, that there could be a chance for a Democrat to squeak on through and maybe have one of the top two spots that would put them on the next round of elections. Could you see a Democrat possibly winning a slot on the primary for this special election seat in 14?
Of course. I mean, I think there's 3 Democrats that are running at this point. Sean Harris ran before in this race. He has a lot of momentum, and I think it is absolutely possible. 50% to take it outright. I mean, that's a tougher call, but I mean, if it were ever going to happen, I think right now we could see that happen.
All right, stay with us, please. And you can hear more from all of the candidates in the race to succeed Marjorie Taylor Greene this week, Republicans and Democrats. I'll be one of the panelists asking questions during Candidate Forum with the Atlanta Press Club, and you can watch those events this week on ANF Plus. That's our streaming app. Part 1 airs Monday morning at 11, and then catch Part 2 Tuesday, also at 11.
And ahead, on the record, a Republican lawmaker says it's time to take over election operations in Fulton County. He said it loud and clear. What it could mean for this year's midterms, next on the record. On the record right now, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis says she should not have to pay legal fees related to that now defunct election meddling case that she brought against President Donald Trump and some of his allies.
Former defendants in that case have asked for nearly $17 million to be paid out under a Georgia law, a new law, allowing criminal defendants to recover expenses when prosecuting attorneys are dismissed. Willis says making those payments would mean handing over almost all of her taxpayer-funded operating budget. In a filing last week, she said the state law allowing defendants to ask for those legal fees to be returned is, quote, so vague and indefinite that courts must guess at its meaning and differ as to its application. Willis also says some of what she's being asked to reimburse includes what she calls astonishing expenses, including expensive hotel stays, extravagant lunches, and in some cases, she says her office was given invoices that were completely redacted.
And that filing from DA Willis comes at the same time that Fulton County elections are under strict scrutiny from the White House and now at the state capitol. Some Republicans in the state legislature think that Fulton County can handle running their own elections, and they said so this week. That includes State Senator Greg Dolezal, who says he supports a state takeover of Fulton County elections. Dolezal's push for a state takeover came after federal officials unsealed a warrant revealing why they seized hundreds of boxes of 2020 election ballots from Fulton County's election hub during a raid last month. The warrant revealed that federal investigators used what Democratic officials call debunked theories about missing and duplicated ballots. Fulton County leaders told us they think a takeover would be a bad idea, and they'd fight leaders in court, state leaders in court, to prevent that from happening.
I'm not going to stand for it. I will protect the voters of Fulton County with everything that I have. And again, we will use every resource at our disposal to fight anyone.
Political science professor and Atlanta News First political analyst Dr. Ben Taylor joins us now on the record. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Okay, so explain this to us. How could a state legislature basically push out local officials, in this case Fulton County, and take over an election?
Well, so all of the basis of this is from the 2021 election law that was passed by the legislature. And what they're really talking about is when they gave the State Board of Elections authority from the legislature. They passed the laws for the state, the governor signed it into law, and the State Board of Elections could, if they deem that a county level Board of Elections is underperforming or, quote, poor performing, that's what it says, it's a bit vague, then they can, if they take a vote, they can remove those local elected officials, and the State Board of Elections would then oversee the elections of a specific county. But I really want to point out something, that the State Board of Elections has been in constant communication with Fulton County since 2021. They've made several changes. Fulton County has made several changes the State Board of Elections has wanted to see. So, in some level, all of this evidence that we're talking about now is from 2020. We had a 2022 election. We had a 2024 election. Things went very well. The State Board of Elections even said, they're on the record in several news reports, that they were impressed with Fulton County's revisions and changing of personnel and doing things the Board of Elections wanted to be seen doing. And so in this sense, all of this is rehashing very, very old history at this point.
Well, one of the reasons I love talking to you is because I get a little history lesson here. I want to ask you about old history. Let's go back to the founders who said that elections need to be run at the state level. federal elections, that is.
That's correct.
Why did they decide that? Why was that so important to them?
Well, because of federalism, right? So the United States Constitution says very clearly in Article 1 that the states are responsible for the time, manner, and place of elections. Congress may, at time to time, intervene and have oversight, but the bottom line is election administration is done at the state level, and more specifically at the county level. And really important to remember is that the Secretary of State's office has oversight here, the legislature has oversight, but also remember who's actually running elections are our friends and neighbors. All right, the people you go to church with, the people your kids play baseball and do gymnastics with, they run elections. And so while we have administrators and professional folks who are in charge of policy aspects, the people who are on the ground helping count ballots and run the ballots through machines, they're people we know. These aren't mysterious people in dark closets. These are regular, everyday Georgians. And we should always remember that as well.
Dr. Ben Taylor, good to see you as always. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you guys. Still ahead on the record, a new legal battle is brewing as the race for Georgia governor heats up.
On the record right now, a new legal battle is brewing between Republican candidates in the race for governor in Georgia.
Republican Rick Jackson just filed a lawsuit against Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. Jackson's lawsuit aims to prevent Jones from using his funds that are part of his leadership committee for his gubernatorial campaign. Leadership committees allow some of Georgia's legislative leaders to raise unlimited funds year-round for a variety of election-related activities and even other candidates.
Rick Jackson is the third candidate in the race to sue over the fundraising mechanism, claiming the leadership committee places unfair limits on Jones's opponents. Attorney General Chris Carr and Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger filed similar lawsuits last year. Those were tossed out. Jackson, a billionaire healthcare CEO, launched his gubernatorial campaign 2 weeks ago, pledging to spend at least $50 million of his own dollars. On the other side of the very crowded race, Democrats are revealing much smaller fundraising totals. Former State Senator Jason Estevez reporting the most amount of cash on hand, a total of $1.2 million after the latest reporting deadline. Former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms' campaign has about $800,000 in the bank. Mike Thurmond, DeKalb County's former CEO, has just under $700,000 to spend, and former Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan reported about $609,000 on hand.
And we're back with our panel now. If we talk about money, it's helpful to follow it in politics, right? And so in the last election cycle, I think Democrats certainly saw a money advantage, maybe with the exception of Jon Ossoff this time around. That is far from the case. So, Deborah, is that a concern for the Democratic candidates?
Well, I mean, the Republican candidates in this race are trying to buy the race. When you loan yourself multi-millions of dollars to forward your campaign, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see massive amounts of money. On the Democratic side, we have a robust primary. All of the candidates have raised, the competitive ones have raised over $1 million in terms of grassroots support, 80-90% of donors from Georgia. And that's really showing a sign of their support here in the state and not just trying to buy the election with their own bank accounts.
Julianne, Democrats are feeling themselves a little bit right now because of all the special election victories that we've talked about. Money fundraising here in Georgia aside, history does tell us, as we mentioned earlier, that the party that's not in the White House does better in the midterms than the other party does. Is there a chance that Democrats could win back control of not only the House of Representatives, but maybe also the U.S. Senate as well? And what would that mean for President Trump's agenda?
Well, like you said, history does show that there is a challenge for the party that has the White House at the time when it comes to the midterms. But the Republican Party is up for the challenge. They've got a robust strategy going into the midterms when it comes to get out the vote efforts, when it comes to gearing up for preparations for election integrity. They're ready to go, and they're ready to hit the ground running just as soon as we know who our candidates are going to be after the primary is over with. We're ready.
These special elections, do they sort of set like momentum as we head into the November, the general elections in November? Can we tell, what can we tell from these special elections that may give us a clue as to what we're going to see?
Special elections are difficult because special elections do not necessarily drive out the same people that an ordinary primary would. So there are instances where one person could win a special election and then not go on to win the primary because a whole different, larger group of the Republican electorate would show up for the primary. So it's a very interesting situation that we have, especially in CD14. So I mean, we feel very confident that Republicans are going to maintain control of CD14. And then, of course, we have CD11 with Barry Loudermilk announcing that he's not running for re-election. So we're going to have a robust primary in CD11 as well.
If we had another hour, we'd talk about runoffs and all the fun stuff there too, but we don't. Thank you both for being with us. We appreciate it. And that is our show. Thanks to our guests, Deborah Shigley, Julianne Thompson, and Dr. Ben Taylor.
And thank you for watching. We'll see you next Sunday.